Okay.
In fact, I haven't seen an original sin in a long time. Same old stuff. I doubt anybody come up with an original one. You got any original sins?
Quite a few.
From the Buddhist point of view, you don't start out broken. Buddhist idea is to recognize your true nature, which isn't broken and isn't full of sin. You say, how can that be when you look at the world and all that's going on? And the response would be simply, that's going on because of the misconception or lack of awareness of one's true nature. One's true nature is free of sin. The trouble with Buddhism is it tends to shock some of our basic ideas that we hold on to that we believe are quite precious. What the Buddhists do have the idea is the basic problem is one of ignorance. And the word ignorance from a Buddhist point of view works out this way. Ignore, 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 and you still end up in a state of ignorance. And that's why we have this thing called meditation. The mind is spinning so fast, you tend to ignore a lot of things that are going on. We're going to have a meditation period today. At some point I'll ring the bell. We'll just sit quietly. What they recommend is that you pay attention to your breath. And you're going to find there's, of course, expansion and contraction. It's happening in your stomach, expansion and contraction. It's happening in the rib cage, expansion and contraction. And very subtly, it's happening this way, up and down. When you're sitting and you find that there's a certain place where the breath can't expand, there's something locked there that needs to be looked at as the cause of suffering. You quiet down, you follow the breath, you find it goes down just so far and stops. There's something there that needs to be investigated. That something is causing suffering in your life. You're not going to find peace of mind until you breathe with the whole body completely. At least that's the Buddha's idea. I'm not that scary. One of the things that I feel very strong about is that a teacher isn't a real teacher unless he's learning from his students. And I had a nice exchange with one of my students recently. It prompted me to respond to him with this poem, which I'll share with you, which is a nice position for a teacher to be in, to be learning from his students. Creates a dialogue and openness. It's one of the things that is emphasized in Zen practice, is the sense of openness. People say, how do you do it? H-O-W, honest, open, and willing. This will rock your boat, probably. Did we get into what metanoia is? Metanoia, it's actually two words. Metanoia. Meta is beyond, noia is mind. Beyond mind. What is it that's beyond mind? We're always using our mind. The mind's always spinning. Buddhism is talking about something beyond that mind that's always spinning. The popular phrase nowadays is get out of the box. The box is your own mind. A blind man in a dark cellar at midnight looking for a black cat who isn't there. That's the end product of this mind that's trying to solve the problem of why are we here on the planet Earth? What's life all about? What's the meaning of life? Doing that is all summed up here. So much time is spent slavishly and painfully working to repair what isn't broken. That's why we say there's no original sin. You're not dysfunctional from the get-go. You're not broken. I talked last week about koans. Zen masters create new koans. There's always new koans coming along. The one I created that nobody's answered yet is demonstrate that just as you are, you're okay. The emphasis with koan work is not verbalization, but manifestation. How do you shake hands? How do you shake hands? Let's not get stuck. Other possibilities. There's a friend of mine, Jason Schulman, excellent musician. He says, if you're not being creative, you're going to suffer. I don't like him. That which is magnificently silent sings with a full voice, the soundless melody we can't recall, that liberates the misconceived broken heart. When you work with the koan, it's pushing you back and back and back to your true nature. You can't answer a koan from your intellect. Intellect isn't built, isn't designed, doesn't have the capacity to answer the koan. The sexual wanderer suffering an intoxicating dyslexia that leads him or her towards their true beloved who has been with each other always in all ways. In other words, they're saying this malfunction that you have yourself involved with is inevitably going to bring you back to your true nature. There's two schools of thought in Zen. One is Rinzai and one is Soto. It came from Rinzai school. Rinzai is the warrior, the samurai. Very intense. Soto is the school of the farmers. They're much more laid back. They practice something called shikantaza. They say, just sit and you'll become enlightened. It wasn't that the Buddha had many tricks to produce his enlightenment. It was just the practice of sitting. Then this Rinzai guy came along and started throwing koans in. They both work, they're both helpful. Shikantaza, you can just become very lazy. Rinzai, you become too maniacal. It's a nice combination of Rinzai and Soto. Nice combination of the masculine and the feminine. We had that last week, yes? Hello? Anybody out there?
Good morning. Yes.
Leads him or her towards their true beloved. These things we do that originate from the ego inevitably are going to reveal their emptiness. You think, if I get enough heroin, I'll feel wonderful. If I get enough alcohol, whatever your particular addiction, you think that's going to solve the problem. But inevitably it's going to fall apart. It's not going to do the job. What are you left with then? The friendship plays with us beyond states of intimacy. What is that? Returning us back to the natural state of metanoia. The only way there is here. Right? Where are you going to find it? If you keep rushing over there to get it, you're going to miss it because it's here. You can't be any way other than the way you are at this particular moment. You can't be any way other than the way you are at this particular moment. You can change, but at the moment you're just what you're supposed to be, or all that you can possibly be. You did this, and you did this, and you did this, and here's where you ended up. This is where you are right now. And this is the very best place to start practicing Zen. In fact, it's the only place from where you can practice Zen. You can only practice Zen from where you are at this moment. You can't practice Zen from where you might be later on or from where you were before. It's what's going on at the moment. That's why the focus is on this breathing. The focus is on the meditation. The only way there is here, as we foolishly, in a spastic and awkward manner, trip and flip over our own mind, ending up with unrapturous simplicity in our true state beyond mind. Unrapturous is important because many people come because they hear of these great states of enlightenment. And you may experience that, but you can't stay there. In fact, if you go up too high, you're going to come down very low. The agony and the ecstasy. If you go up off into a state of ecstasy, it can't be maintained. A lot of people try, and they get hemorrhoids. It's very difficult. Eventually you come back down. So Zen is looking for something different than that. An unrapturous state of simplicity. What is it that happens beyond mind? Nothing. And that is something to think about. This guy's really good that wrote this.
You just make some stuff.
Nothing contains no thing, including sin. When we realize no sin, we win the way in to our present state of openness, which liberates the funness of our empty state. What is this thing that the Zen people emphasize so much, this thing called emptiness? What are they talking about?